Hello, my name is Adrian Cox Settles. I am a math coach. I am the owner of Diverse Interactive Learning Tutoring Center, and I deal with math in a large variety of other capacities. I'm a specialist. I have been a teacher, a department head, a homeschooler, so I have um, dealt with math in all different arenas, all different like arenas, I could say all different settings on all different levels. I've tutored all different levels. I would say pre-K up to college and adults and Praxis and T's. And I have taught in classes from fourth grade all the way up to college, fourth, fifth, sixth consecutively. Majority math. Fourth grade, I had to do everything, but fifth grade, it was math, sixth grade math, and it just kept going to math. Now, so I do understand the developmental stages in each grade, for us, the fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, all the way up to adulthood. Now, with adulthood, it might vary because some adults are still dealing with some childhood traumas. So, some adults can be stuck in fourth grade, can be stuck in ninth grade, So with adults, it's a little bit different because it depends on their growth, with their experience, and so on and so forth. So, it takes a lot of creativity to deal with an adult because they come with a lot of experiences, misconceptions, misunderstandings. Okay, now, so I want to stay focused on, I passed the Praxis 5165 on the first try. Now, and I prepared for it in 1 month. Because when I went to register, I was just like, I wanted to plan like 2 months or 3 months in advance because I have a very busy schedule, but I only can prepare a little bit less than a month. It might have been like 27 days. And so I was like, wow, I didn't even have a whole month to plan, and I'm not for sure. I have to check if that is how it really is now. The time is limited, or when I was trying to plan, it was only, within a month away. But I did what I had to do, and I passed the Praxis 5165 on the first try within that month. Now, however, let me tell you about the backstory to how I was able to do this. Okay, there's a backstory. I just didn't just empty, study for a month and then pass it. No, it's a lot of things that had to take place to get me to the point where I could study for this and pass it in a month. It's a lot of layers behind it. So let me start. So I'm gonna start with second grade and speed it up, okay? Because you speed it up. But basically, in second grade, I learned my multiplication facts. My mom taught me my multiplication facts. And so that sparked my love for math because anyone, for the most part, that learns their multiplication facts early will be fast and will be fast and will get through questions easily. It becomes easy. So when they go to the next grade, just having that skill really gives them the advantage over the other kids if they don't have the same skills. So by me being so good in multiplication in second grade, third grade was easy, fourth grade was easy, fifth grade was easy, so on and so forth. My interest for math was sparked. I had that intrinsic motivation. People didn't have to motivate me from the outside. It came from the inside because I felt good and felt confident because I knew how to do my multiplication. I knew my multiplication facts in second grade. Now, let's speed up. Years after that, I'll say 2 years after that, I had an environmental culture shock. Okay. So we went to live, speed it up. We went to live in the Lexington Terrace housing projects in Baltimore, Maryland, the hood. Okay. We lived in the hood. Now, there was a lot of things that happened, but I'm gonna just keep it really simple. So when I was in that school, a lot of learning didn't occur. There was a lot of behavior problems. Um, Outside the school, it was a lot of crime, Um, I didn't have much parental support. That's a whole different story. But it was, I didn't learn on the level. I didn't, when I was in public school, elementary through high school, I didn't learn on a conceptual understanding level that it takes to pass a test like 5165. So my public school education did not prepare me to take a test like 5165 and pass it in a month. No, it didn't. And so a lot of work had to be done, had to be done outside. Because when I was coming up, they didn't have Common Core, you know. And teachers that incorporate the Common Core strategies effectively are preparing the kids for conceptual understanding. But I know that some teachers don't feel comfortable. It's like, getting out your comfort zone. It's not so much procedures, it's actually meeting the kids where they are, letting them decide what strategy they want to use, and then facilitating that learning. It's a total different way of thinking. You lose some of your control, give the control to the kids, facilitate that learning by asking guided questions, things like that. So everyone is not ready for that. In my classroom, however, I had my students at the board all the time. You will rarely hear me say anything. I was facilitating their learning. I was exposing them to different strategies so they will be conceptual learners. But that means giving my power away. And at first, I was not going to give my power away. I was robotic. We're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. But as I got to learn how children learn, I understood conceptually, I have to allow them to be themselves. Okay, I have to allow them to be themselves. So if you want to think on a conceptual level, you have to dig into how you see things and get with a tutor that can foster that learning. Not so much get with a tutor that's trying to push out everything that you have and put in what they know. Because no, what you have accomplished over years. They need to take that and foster your learning, foster that way of thinking, because that's really good to use on a conceptual assessment, like an SAT and an ACT. It's a higher level critical thinking test. It's not just procedure. You go in there, 1 plus 3 is 4. No, it's more than that. Why is this? Demonstrate this. If I did this, how would that happen? You have to dig deeper. They want to see if you actually know what you're talking about. And public school did not prepare me for that. So I had to do extra work. I tutored. Now, tutoring does help you to become a conceptual learner and a critical thinker, because when you tutor, you have to be creative to help the other person understand what they're trying to get. You have to be creative. You have to show all these strategies, thinking out the box, not doing something traditional, pushing that thinking forward, pushing your thinking forward. That's conceptual understanding. It doesn't look the same for anybody. Everything is different. Okay. So tutoring does help you. So I think along the way, tutoring did help me with the process of conceptual understanding. So that was a step years ago that led up to me passing the Praxis 5165 in a month. So I would say it started with knowing my multiplication tables, second grade, getting the confidence to be competent, to be competitive and things like that. Then later on, with my math knowledge, of course, procedural math knowledge, later on, tutoring, helping other people to be successful, still feeling good because I was very creative. Those type of things, the motivation, being exposed, and, the tutoring really helped out with conceptual understanding, because you see math on a different level, because you see how people are seeing it. And then you have to think outside yourself to bring it to light to them so they can understand it. Okay. Now I taught. Now, when I was teaching, we wasn't doing Common Core at first. So it was just like you test prepping. And, we was trained to test prep, and I was always good with bringing up test scores and things like that, all the different strategies, what needs to be done, repetition, bam, bam, bam. So I was always excellent with bringing up test scores, having people think and, doing things like that. Later on, I got promoted, or people asked me, to go to their school and become the department head. Now, as a department head, I was responsible for raising the test scores. Okay. And so they did have things called BCR, brief constructive responses, SR, they had selective responses, and there was another one, where they had to actually write about why is this. So we had to kind of get the kids in the mindset of writing like paragraph, or putting things in math symbols, and explaining why this occurred. And so that became more conceptual understanding, not just solving this. Why is this? Why he didn't do this? Why she didn't do that? So that helped me also, the BCRs and ECRs, extended constructive responses, but it was like really long. You had to write more, and brief, you had to write, less, but you had to really explain why this isn't that, you had to analyze, and different things like that. And there was terminology that went with it to help push your thinking forward, but I can't think right now. It was a while ago. And so when being able to do ECRs and BCRs, those things do help you to think conceptually, because you're not just doing the math problem, you're actually thinking, why did you do this? Why is this right? Why is this wrong? So tutoring, incorporating VCRs as a department head to help the kids understand how to think through the process. And it is a way of thinking. It is test prep, to be able to do this type of test, you do have to go through test prep, for people that haven't been taught to think on this level. So a lot of test prep has to go into it. It's not like natural. I mean, you give me just, math, just give me trigonometry, geometry, algebra, whatever. Just give me basic math from the textbook, that's not conceptual, ECR, BCRs. And I could just do it like this all day, be finished in no time. However, and most of you all can, because the math, the formulas, you can plug it in, the Pythagorean theorem, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Side A and B, can be interchanged. A doesn't have to be the smallest. A and B can be interchanged when the triangle is an isosceles triangle. And the longest side that's opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. I mean, you already know this, and you can substitute that in all day long. They can change the triangle around all day long. When to use the laws of sine, when to use the laws of cosine. There's special times when you use different formulas for different things, depending on if the triangle is oblique, the triangle is right. These things. You memorize these things, the difference between the radius and the diameter. The basic stuff. So if it's like a basic test, you'll pass it in no time. So my public school education prepared me for the basic test. Well, of course I can do numbers, the number and quantity, number sense. I can do geometry. I can do all those things, on a procedural basis, if it was me to take a test like that. But no, it didn't prepare me for the SAT to score that perfect score. No, it didn't prepare me. To be able to do that, you have to think on a higher level conceptually. And I didn't have that. I wasn't taught that way. And so seeing a test like this without doing extra work outside of my public school education would be a struggle, But like I said, I was exposed as a department head, BCRs and ECRs. And then later on, I went on to grad school. Now, grad school, Morgan State math education. Okay. That was when I learned about conceptual understanding. That's when I learned, we are being taught, some of us, in a robotic way. I'll walk, you follow, but if you're trying to teach someone conceptually, you have to dig deep in that person and see them for where they are and pull out what you need, and then facilitating by asking guided questions. You have to spark their interest intrinsically, getting something that they like and wrapping the subject around it so they have an interest in it. You're talking about engineers building this, building that. They might be like, but let's talk about video games, with this car, that. You can change the questions around just to get your point through, to get your concept through. You don't have to leave it where it is, something that's not interesting. Spark that interest by getting things they're interested in so that you can build that intrinsic motivation and they can be lifelong learners. Okay? So in grad school, I learned about conceptual understanding. It's not just, 1/2 times 3/4. Why is 1/2 times 3/4? And you couldn't just do math symbols. 1/2 times 3/4, multiply numerators, multiply denominators. If you simplify, you couldn't do that. You have to sit there and say why, and coming from just teaching, not saying robotic, but teaching not on that type of level, you're really shocked. Like, wow, we have to really analyze this. But once you analyze it and dig deep, you're like, whoo, you start seeing math on a different level. You start seeing how kids really learn. It's a learning community. It's not just about the teacher getting up teaching lecture style. It's about the kids learning and you facilitating their learning. And a lot of times they learn from each other. Just walk around, listen for accountable talk, and just monitor the process. Make sure it's going in the right way. You don't have to intervene. They can self-check. Someone in their group can self-check. Maybe present them with a subject and see what they know, because a lot of times they have prior knowledge. What do you think about this? What do you know about this? And let them go and listen to the conversation, and they will go through, help each other learn. And sometimes you do have to intervene with a formula or see if they can derive their own formula depending on where you are. Okay. And it's fun. It's fun me sitting back, give the child a problem, sit back and have 5 or 6 students go up to the board and do 6 different problems. And I had international students, so they would have a Turkish way, they would have a Pakistani way, they would have the Egyptian way, so I had students from all over, and I would sit back and learn from them, and I was comfortable with it. And everyone would be so amazed that that problem could be done in so many different ways. And that's conceptual understanding, because I allowed it to happen. I didn't say everybody do it my way and put my way on the board and then walk around the classroom and everyone's carbon copies of me. No, I am pushing or fostering lifelong learners that are different, think different, are getting ready for the future. I'm not trying to make robots like myself. I'm not trying to have robots walking behind me. That's not what I'm here for. I want to pique your intrinsic motivation by asking you guided questions. So in order to pass Praxis 5161, you have to understand conceptual understanding. Okay, it's not just 5 + 6 is that, and sometimes you might get lost. You need to be able to get with a tutor that can push your thinking forward. Push your thinking forward past that question that's on the test, because the practice questions might be somewhat similar, might not be similar, but you need to think outside of it. Take that concept, add to the concept, subtract from the concept, go forward with the concept, go backward with the concept, throw something in there. The person has to be comfortable with undoing and redoing, And they have to be able to explain why this makes sense, why this doesn't make sense, why is this true, why is this not, why is this no solution. They have to be able to understand that. And that's conceptual understanding, embracing the concept and really understanding the concept, thinking outside of what you know. And like I said, most times in a public school, you don't think on that level of having conceptual understanding, because either certain strategies are not pushed in the class. Maybe some teachers might not be comfortable teaching the conceptual way because it takes patience and it takes talent. It takes talent. It takes being able to lose control and let the people get control and embrace their knowledge and shine. Everyone is not there. So some people are not teaching people full conceptual understanding. And in order to pass the test, like 5165, you have to have a deeper level of the math concept. You have to be able to think on a very critical level. And like I said before, I wasn't prepared for it, but it was different things like tutoring, being a department head that had to help people, see VCRs and see ECRs, going to grad school and actually learning about conceptual understanding, actually understanding Common Core, and actually implementing Common Core into my classes and actually seeing the benefit from it. Now, at first, giving your power to your students can be a little bit scary. However, once you try it, you will see how far the kids can grow, and it's no limit to what they can learn. And if they make mistakes, sometimes they self-check. But you have to be able to do that. You have to get with a tutor if you're studying for this that can push you past the question. Okay, this is the question. You get it right. What if I gave you this? What if I took this away? I want you to find the circumference of a circle. Okay. The area is blank. How do you find the circumference? The only thing you have is the area. I mean, the only thing you have is, okay, yeah, you can find out with the area. Let's say, okay, so C equals 2 pi R. Let's say, okay, yeah, let's say you had the area. They just throw it into the formula. Let's say you have the circumference total, and you had to go backwards and find the radius, so you had to go backwards and forwards, to transpose. You had to transpose backwards and forwards to transpose the equation to figure things out. And once you can do that, that's another way of conceptual understanding. If you have a mean question for the measure of central tendency, right? And you have the mean, you can easily go through, add the numbers up and divide by the amount of numbers. Okay, you can easily do that. But let's say you know that there's 5 test scores, right? And let's say you know the first 4 and you're trying to find the 5th. And the total, you know what the average has to be. Are you able to actually go through, put an X for the unknown, test, and then and then go backwards to see how you can take the average and multiply by the amount of numbers, and then subtract the sum of the total that you have from both sides to get what the unknown value is? I mean, it's different things. I'm just throwing out stuff that's in my head. But you have to be able to go backwards and forwards in order to pass this test, And the wonderful thing about this test is for people that have been teaching in the classroom is that you will get situations, situational problems. Like if the teacher is looking for this, which student displayed that characteristic in this problem? Or what did the student do wrong? What type of mistake did the student have? What is the student misconception? So if you are a teacher and you've been teaching, you've been doing this stuff, you've been grading those papers, you know how that looks. So that's an easy 25% for you. However, if you haven't been in the classroom, that 25% could be kind of hard. Okay, it could be kind of hard because sometimes it takes practice to be able to look at papers to see where the misconceptions are. But if you've been grading papers, going over misconceptions, you can just look at you'll get like different students, Mary, Jane, and Sue. Let's say that. And they're all going through doing a problem that uses the order of operation. Okay, so they all going through the problem. Now let's say, for instance, the problem in order has division before multiplication, right? And let's say Mary, she went through and she did multiplication first, and let's say Sue, I think I say Sue went through and did multiplication first. And let's say Joey, I think I'm making up names, went through and did division first. And so the problem might say, who got the problem wrong and why? And so Mary and Sue got the problem wrong because they thought they followed PEMDAS, okay? Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, addition, and subtraction, when they were supposed to follow the P for parentheses, E for exponents, multiplication, divisions on the same level. So whatever one comes first from left to right, they were supposed to do the division first, the one that Joey did. So it's just a misconception that you always do multiplication before you do division. So that's where they went wrong, you know. And so being able to look at it and figure it out. Now, like I said, if you haven't taught, then you should be able to see that. But teaching this, being in the classroom and teaching it, when you see this stuff, it's so realistic. You have students like that. You have students that do inequality, and when they have a coefficient that's negative, they know they're supposed to divide by a negative number. And when you divide by a negative number, you switch the inequality sign. There's certain things So I think you will be able to go through and figure that out. But sometimes they use certain terminology or situational things that maybe you might be confused, you know. But that part was easy for me because I've taught so many years, and I see the strategies. I graded papers. I was consistently grading papers. Now, if you haven't really been into grading papers, that could be a part of your downfall, because when you grade papers, you know that, oh, okay, she's struggling with order of operations. She always multiplies before she divides, even when division is first. Okay, he's struggling with Pythagorean theorem, because instead of a squared plus b squared equals c squared, he's doing a squared minus b squared equals c squared. So he's confused with the formula, and so when you go through and you actually grade your students' papers, that can help you to bring up your score. So it's different things that I have done that has helped me to think conceptually and see mistakes. So far as that, I think that part was easy to me because I have so much, I have a lot of experience when it comes to grading papers. I was really starting grading every sheet. My whole living room will be stacked with papers, and I would use my oldest son to help me grade the papers and give him money or whatever, because he's really good at math too. It runs in our family. We are very competitive when it comes to math. Myself, my husband, and my 3 sons. We're very, very competitive when it comes to math. So we have interesting table dialogue. Well, not dialogue, but grouping. Okay, because it's not 2, it was all of us. But besides that, grading your students' papers. So if you have experience with that, that can really be a helpful tool when you get to that. Being able to look at the different students and figure out where they went wrong and why did they do what were they thinking in order to do that wrong? What were they thinking? Oh, they had a misconception of this. Oh, they forgot to bring down the negative. Oh, they forgot to switch the signs because they divided by a negative. Oh, they forgot to fill in the inequality symbols when you have an equal to sign because it's included. Oh, okay. And so you see those things, So like I said, people that are constantly grading papers will have the advantage because they've seen this. So this is going to be good. That's 25% of the test. You've been teaching for a while. That part, if you've been grading papers, giving back feedback, realizing what's going on, correcting misconception, that can really help you with getting a good score on this test. So that's the 25%. The other part, like I said, is more conceptual understanding, understanding what's on the test. Don't just go around practicing the practice test. Some of those skills are not going to be on there. You go through, you get the study guide, and you study the concepts that's on the test. Okay, study the concepts that's on the test. And when you study the concepts, try to dig a little deeper, try to go a little bit more than what the formula is, try to get some more challenging questions by going online, looking up YouTubers, because it's not going to be as simple as, okay, this is the Pythagorean theorem, blank, blank, blank. They might have triangle inequality. Does these numbers form a triangle? What type of triangle does these numbers make? Or do these numbers make? So you have to know that in order to form a triangle, you have to know the rules. You have to know the rules for the interior sum of a polygon. How do you know how do you know that the number of degrees in a polygon? Unless you make triangles, that's the formula right there. You have to know the diameter. I mean, it's a lot of things you have to know. How to find the area of equilateral triangle. A lot of fun things you have to know. You have to know circles in and out. you know, you have to know. It's just a lot of things. You go through it and you see it. You have been exposed to it if you have been teaching high school. However, if you haven't been teaching, if you have taught SAT and ACT on that level, and you have to get kids to think to that level, that will prepare you. And I have been prepping, students over the years for SAT and ACT. Like I said, I've been prepping teachers for the T's and Praxis tests. So, and 5165. So if you're prepping people for those type of tests, SAT, critical thinking, that allows you to grow. So like I said, I passed the test 5161 in a month, but it was a lot of things that went into that. Even though I prepped for that in a month, I have a history of going through things to actually get me to that point where I can do that, because I did not learn conceptually in public school. So if you want to pass this test, first of all, you have to have a strong foundation in math, okay? And that will be the basic parts. Okay, you have to have a strong foundation in the concepts that's presented on the study guide. Okay, you have to know those concepts. But you want to be able to get with a tutor or have a program where you can be challenged on those different topics, when it comes to circumference, area, not just finding the area straight up, if Johnny is walking blank, a fourth of the circumference, and this is the number, what would be the radius for that circle? I sound like a robot, but fun things like that. You make it interesting. You have a tutor, have them to make it interesting, or maybe you make it interesting. You make the problem, okay, I have this problem, and what can I do to this problem to make it more complex? So you can do it yourself. You can do things like that yourself. You don't have to wait for anyone else. But if you do find someone that's going to push your thinking forward, that would help you because they can think about something that you probably never thought about. Sometimes we're limited to our understanding. And if you have not been tested or have not been pushed conceptually, you are limited. So you need to be around someone that knows how to think on a conceptual level, can take you there to an uncomfortable level where you're like, but when you get it, you feel good. You need someone to push you because this test 5165 it's not a procedural test. It's a conceptual understanding test. You have to have critical thinking skills. And like I said, 25% of it is if you will benefit if you're in the classroom based on this student, this student, this student, that, procedural type things when you can find misconceptions and problems, So that is why, when you think about it, that is why I was able to pass the Praxis 5165 in a month's time, because I was able to go through and do the work. Because in public school, I didn't have that type of mindset. I wasn't taught on that level, And like I said, tutoring help, So if you're a teacher and you're getting ready for the praxis, do some tutoring. Get outside of what you're teaching. You're limited to what you're teaching. Do some tutoring. Get down. See why this person is struggling. You need those type of critical thinking skills to have when you take a test like this. Also, like I said, we had BCR, ECRs, writing paragraphs, try to see the math in a different way, not just the number symbols, this plus this is that. Try to find math problems that you had to dissect to try to figure out what's going on. Try to look at the figures from a different area to see if you can go forwards and backwards and forwards. Try to think about things you never thought about before. But it would be good if you have a practice partner that you and a partner can bounce back and forth, asking questions that you would never think. Y'all can push yourself through forward with that, or you can have someone that can actually help push your thinking forward. Like I said, we are limited based on our knowledge, because a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. And that's when a test like a 5165 catches up with you, when you're not ready to push through to figure out what you don't know. But when you go through and you take the test, you can kind of figure out, okay, I'm struggling with this. And let's say you take the test for the first time, they give you a score, but they always like, they give you a score, but they group the subjects together, but they give you a score based on, where this is and where that is. It would be beneficial if they were to break things down more for you so you can see, okay, I'm struggling with fractions, but nah, that would be too easy that would be too easy for you, So you have to go through and just study those topics again to try to figure out what you're doing wrong. But yeah, so this is my advice. My advice for you will be to recognize that you might not be on a conceptual understanding level yet. If you have not taught Common Core and have been effective, you have not been exposed outside of the basic procedural math, so you could be struggling. You need to go to a higher level outside of what you have been taught to be around people on a higher level so they can challenge you, do research and things like it takes work. It takes work. Get with someone that has patience, because you might get a tutor, they're moving fast and you feeling some kind of way. So you moving fast and you like, okay, I understand when you don't. If you don't understand and you paying a lot of money, you need to let them know, I don't understand. You need to slow down and I need to learn another way. And, that's your money. That's your money. You have control about how they do something with you. I don't like this. I don't like the way you're doing this problem. Can you show me a different way? Conceptual understanding is being able to be creative in different ways. Not saying, oh, no, this is the way you have to do it. There's different ways you can do one math problem. You have to step outside of the box. Some teachers and tutors are restricted because they never been forced to step outside the box. So you need to go to someone else that can push you outside the box to an uncomfortable zone where as though you're growing in that uncomfortability. Okay. So you need to be pushed. So like I said, I would encourage you, if you were in advanced classes, then take SAT prep or advanced classes, GT classes growing up, you might not have the conceptual understanding for a test like a 5165. However, you can get it. You can tutor. You can be around people that have passed the test and see if they will help push your thinking forward outside of what you see on the practice test. If you're studying for algebra, you just going through and studying algebra concept. But get the practice test. You can use the practice test, for practice, just to see how the problems are set up. But you need to go to the study guide so that you can cover every single topic that's on the test. And that's what I did. Some people might think it's tedious, but if you're trying to pass a test, you need to know what's on the test. Don't be guessing and using a practice test as your guide. Those are only a few concepts out of the many that you will cover. The study guide has all the concepts. So if you want to be successful on the 5165 test, go through your study guide, figure out what you don't know, practice it. Know how to use the calculator, TI 84, 83, 80 to 84. Learn how to use the calculator backwards and forwards. There's so many different things you can put in a calculator, you know, the derivatives, integration, there's so many different things you can put in there. You can even put box of whiskers, you know, but I don't know, think you would need to do that, but there's so many different things you can do, you know, of course, with the line of best fit. And yeah, the calculator is a wonderful tool, and plus it saves time. So think about, you know, going to some YouTube videos and learning how to use your calculator. It's a great tool that's going to save you a lot of time. Now, I had an advantage because I did teach SAT prep, and I did teach Algebra 2 and trig and things like that. So my students had to learn how to use the calculator in certain classes. And so I was always good with using the calculator. So I had advantage. And if you're trying to get advantage, learn a calculator. Learn how to use the TI-84. Look up videos. Ask someone how to do it, you know. And when I teach my students how to pass the 5165, I will teach strategies of how to use the graphic calculator. You know, I will push your thinking forward of how to pass the test. You know, so you will be uncomfortable, and you have to be uncomfortable to get to a point where conceptually you're able to operate. You're able to operate not just on the lower level, but um, procedural understanding. You have to be on a higher level, and it's not easy. It's not easy. And you know, if you haven't learned this way in school, you know, in a public school system, it is hard. You know, it is hard. It's a whole different mindset. It's a whole different universe that you didn't even know existed. You know, but based on my experiences, like I said, you know, tutoring, everything, going to grad school and learning a different way of thinking and actually seeing things, I was able to take things in a little bit more, see things on a different level. And I actually incorporated the what I learned in grad school into the classroom, you know, and they say if you really want to learn something, you teach it. And so once I learned about conceptual understanding, I was teaching my students based on conceptual understanding. And I had students that were in competition, female students that took first place, all female Muslim students in a competition that was dominated by males. You know, so I understand what it takes for conceptual understanding. And, you know, definitely you need to build up that self-esteem, you know, to be able to even be able to even want to try. You have to build the self-esteem. You know, you have to understand that people are dealing with math anxiety. And I go into in-depth in math anxiety in my video for the Praxis core math, where I talk about, you know, the sweating, the trembling, and things like that. But when a person gets to the level of a 5165, it's possible to have math anxiety, but you have learned to control it somehow. You have learned to master it because you're taking a test that's on this level that you don't have to do. And a person that have math anxiety, they go through avoidance. And so they will try to avoid this. So if you have some form of math anxiety, you're doing pretty good because you're facing this. And this is a big thing to face. But like I said, it takes a process to lead up to this. And you need test prep. You need to be pushed. You need test prep. If you weren't taught to teach, if you weren't taught in schools on this level, or if you didn't teach on this level, or if you did with the grad school or college and you never reached this level, you need someone to help you think differently on a whole different level. And it's not easy. It's not easy because, like I said, it's a whole different world, you know. But if your child is exposed to SAT, ACT, they're getting that. GT, they're getting that. They're getting that conceptual understanding, critical thinking skills. But everyone doesn't get that. You know, there's a lot of people that's struggling just to make it on the grade that they're on. You know, they're just struggling. And so, of course, they're not going to get you the conceptual understanding because some basic things they're struggling with. You know, some kids are not on the right grade level. So they're not getting conceptual understanding on that level. They have to go back and fill in those gaps so that they can have a chance to be a strong math student to go forward. But yeah, so that's it. I don't want to be too long-winded because I can be long-winded. But if you have math anxiety or know anybody else that have math anxiety, I did a video, Praxis Core Math video about how to pass the Praxis Core Math test when you have math anxiety. Okay, so I'll go into anxiety and the struggles that a person goes through first to survive before they can even take a test that they're afraid of. You know, it's a whole psychology behind it. But for you all, I just wanted to give you some tips of what it takes to pass the test, like 5165, if that isn't your original mindset, if you wasn't taught like that. It takes a lot of extra work. You know, it is not easy if you weren't in GT, advanced classes, SAT prep, ACT prep. You know, if you weren't put in classes where you had to think on a different level, you will have to do the extra work yourself. And you will see it. You'll get to something and you'll be like, wow, I don't understand why I'm not passing this. I'm really good at math. Yes, you might be really good in procedural math, but when it comes to conceptual math, that's a different level. That's taking you out here, something you may not see in a textbook. But because you know the subject backwards and forth, when they give you something, you can kind of think about it, try to figure out what they're asking you first, and then try to figure out what you need to get through. And of course, you can do, process of elimination, but you have to have that knowledge in order to eliminate. And so there's so many different test strategies that you can do. But I just encourage you to hang in there. If you haven't been taught conceptual understanding, get with someone that can challenge you. Be comfortable with getting uncomfortable. You go through the study guide and practice the problems. Okay, go through the study guide and don't learn about the concepts. Okay, and you can take the practice test. That's cool. You can still pass without the practice test. Okay, but go through the concepts. Look at the practice test though, the one they have, ETS, the one that you can pay for, so that you can see how things are actually formatted. You can see the type of questions that you're dealing with. If you have to pick multiple answers or just one answer or, different things, or if you just have to fill in the answer, just go through so you can actually see the format of what you have to do, because knowing the format makes you kind of comfortable with what you have to do. You can figure out, process of elimination and things like that. But the more you understand the concept on a deeper level, conceptual level, the easier it will be for you to pass the Praxis 5165 without having to take it over and over and over again. Like I said, I passed the Praxis test 5165 on the first try in a month. We're planning for it. I'm preparing for it for in a month. But remember, it took a lot to get to this point where I can actually say that I passed it successful. It took a lot. It wasn't a natural process. Because I had to think on a total different level. And again, to get to that level, I prep SAT, ACT, helping people think on a critical level. I tutored, I worked in departments where we had to have, extended and brief constructive responses to teach kids to think outside the box. I went to grad school and I learned about conceptual understanding, the Common Core way of thinking. I was able to appreciate it, understand it, and then incorporate it into my students so that they can think on a different level. And like I said, 25% of the test is all pretty much like grading students' papers. What student understood this concept and which one didn't, and looking at the multiple choice questions and seeing which one makes the most sense. The student understand this concept, or the student understood this, or maybe step 4 was right, but when they got to step 5, they forgot the negative. That's all. If you are used to grading paper and giving feedback you are preparing yourself to pass the test, like 5165. And so again, I tutor and teach students for Praxis 5165, Common Core Math, Elementary Education, Middle School Math, and Algebra 1. Okay. And so, like I said, if you're struggling and you just can't figure out why, it's because you have to think on a different, you're struggling, you got hundreds and all this in class, and you just know your math, and that's good. You know procedural math. But when it comes to conceptual math, that's a different level, and sometimes it's not even about getting the answer in conceptual math. It's about the process. A lot of times with procedural math, we are aiming for that answer, we feel good. But in conceptual math, what is the process? How are you thinking? How are you going to get here? What do you need to get here? What formula do you use? What are they asking you? It's a deeper level. And like I said, where I grew up, I was definitely not on that level. And if I had not went into the math field and loved math the way I love math and been exposed to different things, then nowhere in the world I would be able to pass the test like 5165. It's no joke coming from where I came from. I'm like, whoo, it's no joke coming from where I came from, because I understand the level that a person has to be on that's not used to taking that type of level, that type of quality critical thinking test. So if you're wondering why you're not passing these Praxis math tests, it was a 5160, I forgot the one before, maybe 5161, I forgot. But that one, they didn't have this 25% part where you can look at it, examine it, and figure out what's going on with the students. They didn't have that. So that was all math, which would have been harder for some. It depends on what type of person you are. If you into like, pedagogy was easy, then the 5165 will help you, because it's that 25%. For me, it's like pedagogy. Understanding how people think, knowing what goes on in the class, how you grade a paper, get partial credit or not, looking at something and seeing it, like, bam, okay, they forgot their negative, being able to see it, and that takes being in the classroom. And even though I haven't been in the classroom for a long time, I still, like I said, I still do online classes and things like that for teachers. And I was doing SAT prep. So yeah, my classes have been smaller, but I can still look at something and tell where the person is struggling. So that's one of my strengths, because I like to be able to point out what they did wrong, or allow them to go back and figure out what they did wrong and go back and self-check. So yeah, that's it. I'm sorry that I've been long-winded, but it's just so much information I want to let you know. I want to give you hope and give you faith and let you know that you can pass this test, which is a high level type test. It takes critical thinking skills. And just look at my path of how I got to pass this test. Look at what I did. And I felt really good to pass it on the first try. I felt really good, because this test is no joke. This test is no joke. And I'm not teaching full time, and I'm not yeah, but I have been practicing math and doing math and teaching and helping people with strategies. And so all those things have prepared me to take this test and pass it the first time. That's big. Only if you knew how big that was. And I'm not in the classroom, I just wanted to pass it so I can see that I can do it. But my own confirmation, so this is a confirmation for me. I wanted to pass it for my own confirmation, but I don't have the stress of I'm going to lose my job, or I need it for my job, because I do have my own tutoring business. But I want to be able to tutor knowing that I passed the test, even though I was can tutor without even taking it. But it makes me feel better knowing that, I'm tutoring the test that I already passed. And also I can tell my students, I already passed the test. Some tutors are tutoring, they haven't even passed the test. I actually passed the test. So it's some leverage there. And plus it's a confident builder for me because I know that test is serious. But that 25% was a big help. And I really like that because I love pedagogy. I just love math, period. It's just a lot of trickery. It is a lot of trickery, okay? Um, it's a lot of trickery, okay? Because they are trying to trick you to try to see if you can think on that level. And the thing about it, there's a lot of good teachers that are not going to be able to pass that test, but could be a big benefit in children's lives. So I met a lot of teachers that could not pass these tests, but they were the best teachers in the classroom. And it's a shame that there's no type of support to help those teachers because they have the heart, they have the strategy, they know how to teach their concept. It's just that maybe they weren't taught to think on this level, and they didn't have those outside classes. It could be an algebra 1 teacher that knows algebra 1 back and forth. But on this test, you got no calculus too. So they had to go and figure out, learn calculus, and then they have to learn geometry, but the teacher is a superstar algebra teacher, and this teacher have got students to just do excellent in algebra. But the teacher might not be able to keep her or his job because they didn't pass this test. And representation is everything. And that one Black teacher, can mean a lot to a lot of kids. But because that teacher doesn't have the support, and because of that teacher doesn't know what it takes to pass this test, or doesn't, like I said, have the support or know what to look for, it's going to be a struggle. That teacher can stay in there. They might have to it's going to take some outside work. It's going to take practicing every day, having a schedule every day to figure out how to get those concepts. You have to know the basic concepts first before you can think on a conceptual level. You have to know the formulas, the circles, the triangles, you have to know the formulas. And then you have to have someone that can push you on those levels. And so, like I said, it's unfortunate because it's a lot of excellent teachers that have not passed this test, but they have helped the students to think on a higher level and, but whatever subject that they're doing. But this test, has many topics, calculus. The algebra teacher's taking algebra and she mastered algebra. Now she has to go through and learn calculus. And, now she has a family and now she has extra jobs and she has to learn calculus, so but I understand, they're trying to figure out who's this and who's that, but they're losing a lot of excellent teachers that they can really work with, that has the talent and the motivation, given the support to do this, program, to do a program to pass this test. And so no, it's not an easy test to pass, and it was easy for me when I took it because what I had to go through to make it to this point. But if I would have took it first year teacher, nah, second year teacher, nah, I wouldn't have got it, Now, after grad school, I did understand how to think conceptually, but I still needed some more math concepts. I needed some more understanding of maybe calculus and things on a different level. Because I did take calculus, but I took it a long time ago, so I had to refresh myself when it came to calculus. And so that was a little bit different, but I love math, so I was able to do it. But I had a long road to get me to pass that test on the first try. But I'm proud. I am proud that I got myself to that level, but it is not easy. And like I said, there's a lot of teachers that are masters in their topic. And unfortunately, the school system are losing teachers that they really can't afford to lose. And it's showing in the grades. The kids' grades are dropping. You know, some of the teachers they had to let go were superstar teachers. They could have worked with them, you know, and it was some of them that was represented, you know, black and brown, you know, and they make a big difference. Just being able to see someone that looks like you makes a big difference in a child's life. But there was limited support. So I just wanted to make this video to tell you what it takes to pass a test like 5165, the secondary math test, well, the Praxis, the content test. And I want to let you know that I am here. I tutor. I'm going to leave my information on the bottom down below. I'm going to leave my information there. I'm going to be tutoring again, Praxis 5161, Praxis Core Math, Algebra 1, Middle School Math, and I'm going to be tutoring the Praxis for education, elementary education, okay, content, for math, for math. Everything's just math. You know, I'm staying in my lane. I mean, I'm good at other things too, but math is my superpower. That's my zone of genius. my zone of genius is getting people to like, love, understand math, and you know, this has changed their whole mindset. That's my zone of my zone of genius, and so I'm going to stay in my zone. But I am here, you know, and like I said, I have a video it's talking about math anxiety. If you have that, you can look at that. This is very psychological. Um, so you know, if you're struggling, there's work. There's work to be done. Work to be done. Practice daily. Get those basic concepts down, you know, because you cannot think on a conceptual level if you don't know how to do fractions, you know. But if you're taking this test, of course you know how to do fractions. Maybe you might not know the Pythagorean theorem. Maybe you might not know how to do derivatives, you know, or yeah, it could be anything, you know, find the diagonal of a shape, you know, or the area of equilateral triangle, you know, or the laws of sines and cosines. You know, maybe you need some refresher, or maybe you just need to learn. You never learned it, and now you have to learn it in order to pass this test. And cramming, ooh, it's not going to work. Cramming is not going to work when you're trying to learn something on a conceptual level. It might work on a procedural level. If you're cramming, it could work. But on a conceptual level, you have to know what you're doing. So you can say, okay, I'm going to get this formula down for circles, da, 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 and then see circles and not even have a clue about what the question is asking you, you know? So cramming is not going to help. You have to know the concepts. You have to challenge yourself or get someone else to challenge you. That's it. It's serious. It's a serious level test. And it takes a lot if you weren't brought up or you didn't have the school system or the classes or the teachers that challenge you in this type of way. It takes a lot. I told you what I went through, you know, and like I said, I decided to take it to see if, you know, I can still think on this level after being in the teaching career. Because I didn't take, you know, I wasn't really supported, you know, when it came to the SAT and things like that. I didn't have the test prep and someone trying to get me ready. I didn't think on that level, you know. However, my son, my son almost got a perfect on the math. Yes. Um, because when he got to the point where he was ready, I was ready too. And I knew what it took because I taught I did SAT prep and things like that. So my oldest son, you know, almost got a perfect. You know, all my sons do very well on tests. And you know, because he almost got a perfect, I don't know, maybe he got one wrong. I don't know. Like, why you ain't get the perfect? No, let me stop. Because he didn't get the you know, because he almost got a perfect. He got a full ride for his bachelor's, a full ride for his master's, and now he's working on his full ride for his PhD. So once you are able to think on a certain level, not only does it help you, but it helps generation to generation to generation to come in your family because you're able to incorporate things on a different level, you know. I was able to help him on a different level because I was there. And it came from experience because, like I said, I didn't grow up and the school system didn't get me ready, you know. And also, my son was in honor classes. You know, he went to very good high schools. He was always in the top, like gifted classes, and you know, he was always in the top of the top, you know, because we started out early, you know. I'm not gonna talk about them, but all my sons been skipped, you know. So once I got what I needed, I just put it into my children. So all my sons have been skipped, so they had to think on a different level. They had to always be a grade ahead. Not only were they a grade ahead, they were also advanced on that grade that they were on, you know. So I did have, you know, pretty high expectations, you know, because I knew what it took. Because remember, I'm coming from Lexington Terrace housing projects, you know, low income, crime rate high, you know, mentality low, you know. So that's where I come from. So I know what it takes. I know what to do to push someone forward to their best. Well, not even their best, beyond their best. Push them beyond what they can think, you know, because I know what it took for me to get there. And so I have the tools to teach other people to do the same, not only for me and others. I have done it for my children also. So, yeah. So I know what it takes. Hopefully, you take my advice. Woo. Like I said, the test is no joke, you know, it's no joke. But you can do it. You know, you can do it. You can do it. You definitely need to be challenged. Get around someone that's going to challenge you. Look at some YouTube videos that have the problems that's going to challenge you. If you want to do it on your own, you can. Or get a partner you that can challenge you. Y'all can go back and forth. So it's possible for you to do it without a tutor. But it'll be easier for you to do it with someone that actually knows how to target your thinking and push you past your comfort zone to get you to where you have to be. Because it's no joke. It's no joke. But like I said, you can do it. Um, you can do it. It's just a different mindset if you haven't been taught to think that way, or you haven't taught that way. You know, for some people wasn't taught that way, but they had to teach Common Core, so maybe they have an insight, or they tutor, so maybe they have an insight. You know, but I taught you what needs to be done to pass this test. So it's up to you to take those strategies because I gave you all the strategies. I gave you all the strategies. So take my strategies, follow that, and yeah. So please like, share, and subscribe. Okay, before I say peace, below I will leave um I'll leave some information for my Praxis core math, just in case you know someone that want to do that. I have a, a guidebook on the 5 fast steps to pass in the Praxis core math. And I'll probably make a guidebook eventually for this Praxis 5165. So that should be coming eventually. And I have videos on math anxiety. So I might add that. I have a math channel, you know, on different math concepts that I know are a little bit hard for people, but I don't have as many videos. However, there's a lot of resources, and I have a free parent resource page, and you can use it because I have SAT prep. And I think Praxis core math prep and things like that on my free resource page. So there are many resources. But remember, it's time to get out of the fixed mindset of thinking you have enough to be this. You got to push past and know that there's more. You can't be comfortable. Know that there's more that you can learn. There's more that you can do. You know, you're not a failure. You just need to practice and learn the right way on a higher level. You're not a failure. you wasn't taught to think on a conceptual level. You were only taught to think on a procedural level, and you mastered that. Now it's time to take it to the next level. So that's it. If anything, any other resources, my tutoring business, I'll leave it there. I'll see if I can leave the link to my flyer there for the courses, for the sessions that's coming up. And I will have next year, I might have a course or I might teach some classes. I'm still deciding what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna stick with Praxis for a while. Get some people, yeah, stay with Praxis for a while because I love teaching the adults. I love high schoolers too, but I just wanted to niche down a little bit because it can be tiring teaching so many different things, and plus my time is limited, so my hours are very limited. I don't have many hours. I have like 4 hours. When I start per week that I can offer, just 4 hours. So, if you're interested, I'll leave my questionnaire below for my classes, and you can, yeah, click on the questionnaire and complete that. But remember, I only have 4 hours because, like I said, I run an online tutoring business and I have 13 amazing tutors, and I just do different things. So I'm not just teaching. I'm just doing different things, helping out with this and that, and that's pretty much it. And making YouTube videos and things like that. But okay, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. All righty. You have a beautiful day. Peace.